Hey everyone, I'm Cassinix, and welcome to Plotting and Scheming, the Grand Arena focused podcast centered around the top 100 of Kyber 1 for Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. This is the week 2 episode for season 82, 3 versus 3. I am joined by only two of my regular co hosts. TJ is on the road and not available, and Dagger's just generally not available at this time here for a few weeks. So, yeah, little undermanned, but it's a pleasure to be joined by Sasha, Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, week two, again, I was matched with Erodiums. I did get a couple guest matches out. If you guys missed that, VODs are up on Twitch and YouTube. But some good Kyber 1 matches, regardless, that I was able to host. And yeah, had some fun watching patrons play, learned a couple things, got some stuff to talk about, but otherwise, pretty quiet over here. How about you, Sasha? Hmm. One day, I hope to achieve the same dizzying heights as you having one match. All right, well, good for you, nevertheless. And over to you, Fatal. How was week two? What were the quality of your matches? I know you're trying to stay out of the Erodium pocket. How is all that going? Yeah, well, there's nothing else holding us back. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about the meta analysis for week two. So, first, about an update about the Gungans. All right, Nas, Jar Jar, and presumably Tarpals. Now, if you're talking 400% defense to offense, that composition with Jar Jar in there is able to be beaten by Ugnaught, right? Ugnaught, Hondo, Ezra. I have seen it go bad where if you have all of them going ahead of all of your guys, it is possible for them to call assists with Tarpals onto Ugnaught, for example, which is what I've seen happen. They pop Ugnaught with assist, and then Tarpals does his AoE, and it's a terrible time because you're immediately without Ugnaught for the rest of the battle. I've seen that happen exactly once, but otherwise, it's been good. A lot of people were wondering, what it would be kind of the stress stat for Ugnaught while we're using this cron. I feel it is definitely speed. I got mine at 320, and it's lucky that a lot of people still have their Tarpals modded in the 270s, 280s, because if it was faster than that, I wouldn't be able to outrun it with that. So that was a good learning. However, it can be shut down if you put in Bombardier instead of Jar Jar. All right. So might be just a weaker team overall, but if you know for a fact that your opponent is married to the Ugnaught counter, um, one thing that will happen even in the best case scenario is Tarpal's first turn, he's going to use his AoE and it will kill your entire team, but you have backup plan. They return, and then you go about your business with the fight. If Bombardier's there, that AoE kills you, and Bombardier's unique ensures nobody's coming back. So, something to think about there. I have seen with the guest stream with the Deadly French duo today. We saw that they chose Pirate King as their counter. Um, no, wait, I think that was to something else. Never mind. I don't think, was it to Gungans? That's something else. Anyway, I thought that was. Have to think about that. Anyway, next one for, well, first of all, any observations from you guys on Gungans? Hmm, I believe that. Sorry to hear it, Sasha. Hmm, mhm, true. All right, next team, EP DVDE. Right. So, people were using Ugnaught for that as well, exploiting the backup plan to have your character revive, and then you just wrap up the fight. You're able to lock down with Hondo onto DVDE. You're able to fracture him and just manage the fight as you kill EP. Right. But if you put in DR, so EP, DVD, and DR, that is apparently resistant, all but forbidding to Ugnaught. So I've heard. Haven't seen it, but all the scuttlebutt tells me if you, again, you see somebody that's just married to using Ugnaught for that, that will block them out. I did check. Does this require the DR FTC? No, no, it's not. That's not part of it. You can stick with your EP Cron with your bonus turn for DVD. It's just about the DR fear, I assume. Um, that's really locking that down. Again, I haven't gotten a chance to see any footage of that, but multiple people reported that being. Any comments from you guys fighting DVD this week? I dig that. I'm glad you mentioned that. I did see somebody go with EP DVD Mara Jade for Java this week, not using the Sithkron because they didn't have it. They misspent it somewhere else. I think that was just last night with my guest stream with JJ. He did use the EP Cron profitably in another spot for Max Banners or something like that. But yeah, when he went to fight Jabba, he said, "Don't worry, I got this." But pleasant to see, as I suspected before he went into the fight, that EP Cron is by no means required to make that work. I want to say we took an orange set, the 5% dark side turn meter level 3, and then something like crit damage and offense on the stat. That's pretty much it. And yeah, manhandled them. It was great. No issues. So that probably has some real long-term future to it after we're done with this Datacron. Fatal, any notes from you fighting or using DVD? Nice. Really nice. All right, next team to cover. Django, Asajj Dark Disciple, Forlom. So, I think some people probably knew about this week one, but this has definitely gotten some more rigorous testing that I've gotten to see this week. Trey Nihilus Savage with the Sith uh, damage immunity, level 6, that lets you survive the burst, the flurry of the first few turns out of them. And then you need defense on the Crom besides. As high a defense as you really can. That's really all you need because once your DI falls, if you don't actually have a significant amount of defense, you can expect to pretty quickly lose your Trey Annihilus. That said, though, everywhere that I've seen somebody go in with that DI, what happens is they all blitz so hard. Asajj gets called to assist so many times. Trey leadership eats her up. She's at 1 health before Nihilus takes his first turn. You do 4 strain. She falls over and then you just manhandle the fight from there. Yes, just those two, if you don't have enough defense, can definitely brap down your sides. It's or your Trey and your Nihilus. No doubt about that. But if you have the defense, you will be fine. So if you've been reserving something like Satil, you've been reserving something very heavy for it. I've been enjoying using Treya in spots like this, where I've been able to do this with patrons and clients and stuff. Because Treya hasn't felt all that powerful on offense against reliable otherwise counters like Gungans. Like you're not going to be beating no 400% defense to offense Tarple with your Treya right. So, or if you are, man, you must have just an outrageous health cron to take some enormous true damage and shit like that. Anyway, yeah. So that Treya thing's something I wanted to highlight about fighting Django. Any other good ones from you guys? Fighting Django, using Django, going once, going twice, sold. On to Jabba. So I did get to see a few times in the wild this week. Cobb Cup Lobot with the 400% defense to offense Cobb Cron. That does get the job done. Between 55 to 56 banners is what I have seen. And that's a loss I could bear if I was doing this. I will say in each of these encounters, Jabba did get one ultimate off. And for whatever reason, I think Cup owes him money or some shit. Because in each of these fights, Cup was the one to get the eat from Jabba. So one eat is going to happen over the course of that fight, at least one. Um, but basically, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And last week though, in week one, I recall telling you that when I did see one go with Cobcron, Cup, and Scavenger, um, sure we didn't get deaths, but he still in fact did get to ultimate once because you are actually hurting for want of Lobot. Yeah, you're not kidding, man. You are not kidding. But what a time to be alive. Because yeah, 55 to 56 banners. That the defense to offense. I was worried, if you recall, last episode about that being a serious liability. Just what happens if he just gets blown out early? It's really just not happening. It's just not happening. I've seen him get low over the course of the fight because it was long, because he got deaths over and over and over. And then when you're able to heal up, um, you can recover a bit before you start getting chipped down again. So I don't know. It's I don't know that I don't know that I plan to use this against the likes of Herbert if I fought him, right? Like I couldn't afford the possibility of the efficiency fight going wrong. But yeah. Other so we talked about the DVD and now Cobb versus Jabba. Any other notes using Jabba, fighting Jabba? Dig it? Yeah. When you say the TM Cron, you're talking about the blue set 15% term meter refund? Yeah.
Decision making on the rest of the team that maybe I had opportunities to kill Bausch in the past that I didn't realize. Maybe it was just a slow Chrysan instead. I'm not going to read too much into it, but it's possible that the fight will has a alternate way to be played where you could just opportunistically snipe Bausch when she's available. But that also adds some complications because uh, you get VIP reset when your VIP gets hit, and taking Bausch out, it did result in me getting less snipe moves, and they got less ult charge as well, and I kept VIP more, so it wasn't necessarily horrible and it wasn't necessarily great. It was just different. It did work out though, so you know. Again, Cassian's a very complicated team. There's a lot of shit to think about. I don't know if that was better or worse. It's an ongoing effort to be sure, but yeah, that's where that's sort of at right now. It was overall very successful this week.
Oh, it's good notes. Yeah, I think I saw you do that once. I thought that was this week though, and it was success. It looked great.
I did it at least twice, possibly three. I don't entirely
Yeah,
remember.
good. Okay, next one. Queen Amidala versus Ray Krex Zeris. So Fatal, you saw this in the data for week one after we'd already wrapped up the podcast for last week. So you knew you wanted to make mention of here in week two. Tell us all about it, and did anything more happen from this here just in week two that you're aware of?
Uh, well, I have no idea about week two, but yeah, no. I mean, I have been working on this for multiple seasons, and it had been getting holds to Malicos fairly often. But the entire point of Ray Krex Barris was to try to grief Queen Amidala, and it wasn't until last week that I finally actually got a Queen Amidala to attempt it, and it got the hold. So yay! The idea did what it said on the tin. I keep on hearing reports that other people are trying to use it. Please don't fucking do that. I am literally using a 400% defense Datacron with light side bulk, GR healing level 6, and also all of my best defense mods. If you try it, you will surely die. Do not do that, but also yippee, it worked.
Yeah, a few patrons that I saw fight it out this week did fight that comp, and Some of them did struggle with it. So I don't know if you need to offer such a strong advisory because clearly the way you have them set up is part of the success. But everything in scale, I guess. People who are not fighting folks as just as rigorously modded on both sides of that fight could be bad. Could be bad.
I have always done my best to be transparent about how investment sensitive something is. Uh, that doesn't mean people listen to me. Usually, people argue with me no matter what I say, whether it's you have alt R10 units. How could you say it doesn't need R10, or vice versa? Where I'll try to give warnings and people will do it anyway.
Mhm.
In this case, though, the concept is literally just a math problem. It is literally just yeah. And so I'm not gonna say, if you're saying some people had problems, that is certainly a possibility. I mean, clearly it's a possibility if it happened,
Mhm.
but you are at the mercy of your opponent's Queen Amidala quality, and I don't think the bar has to be terribly high if you don't have the prerequisite components to make that math problem of just, being too tall for a queen without cam to do enough damage.
And when you say math problem, what we mean is defense mods ho.
Yeah, defense, for those who don't know, effectively multiplies your total bulk pretty dramatically. And so if you have health sets, this will not work for you. If you have anything that is not three defense sets with excellent percent defense secondaries and a 400% defense crowd, you are significantly more at risk of them having enough damage to just kill you outright.
Fair. Very fair. All right. Next here, Fatal, you had updates that you wanted to offer on observations from some fights that you gave us some commentary on in week one, and now you have some developments to report here. Lay it on us.
Yeah, I've been poking away at a variety of projects, and a fair few of them had developments. Um, ISB, I had talked about last week about, KX. I think he was on 3 defense set 4 protection primary, and that's no good. I better fix that for week 2. I mean, for Luminar or for Luminarachron, it was true that that was not ideal. Fighting an actual Luminara, stripping away all that protection. But this week I ran him with 3 health sets with 4 health primaries. And I fought against the Luminarachron, but there was no Luminara. It was just like an OG Cal. And the OG Cal didn't like have defense or anything. He was like 3. He had like a speed arrow, like 3 health primary, 3 health set or whatever. And again, Luminarachron, so the Datacron wasn't built for durability at all. And my KX could not do much of anything to him. So I think that speaks to a clear need to like figure out KX optimization damage wise, because I figure true damage on basic will probably be the heavy lifter, and I don't think that's true. I think it's like a nice icing on the cake, but especially with that defense to offense conversion or whatever. I mean, clearly the defense sets going away seemingly led to a major loss of damage. So,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, had to switch to Balin versus Ray the rest of the week. That went largely okay. It's certainly a lot more fiddly than ISB with Partagaz Kron, but got the job done both times. You just have to be scared of Ben. Elsewhere, I did finally redeem myself on JML against Stranger Starkiller. Uh, I do think the matchup needs Jedi Knight Revan. My attack plan, I'm not saying anyone to do this, but because of my ignorance, I had just been burning Satele on Django. And because it was so overkill, I would just do Satele, Bastila, Jolie there and save Revan just in case there was a stranger back wall. There was one today. I had tried it. So I had originally done this when we had Lightside Termeter with protection stats a couple of seasons ago. And that went swimmingly for a JML versus Stranger counter. The Lightside Termeter loss, definitely. I think I tried it once or twice and fumbled it since then. This time I tried an Flix opener, and that did the trick. Things were still slightly clunky because my Revan went first. And I feel like this counter would really like Cal to be first, just so you can get him into riposte, and then you double lessons Starkiller, and that's just kind of it. But yeah, the Flux opener did do the trick. I don't know if that raises an uncomfortable possibility of like maybe Flux's RNG. I don't know if that was relying on turn meter removal on someone that maybe I don't hit it next time, and that's a problem. Leia's coming soon enough as well, so I don't know if she will change those considerations for if JML is a fairly cheap possible stranger counter. But that was cool to finally get done. Bad Batch 2 versus Pyro King Hondo. Continued to pursue that. I gave Bad Batch kind of better mods for 3v3, I'd imagine. I sped up Omega a lot because I figure, in 5v5, they're clocking. I'd like to have pretty precise and tuned, but in 3v3, your record barely plays the video game. It's largely just Crosshair trying to count to 20 on his own and Omega just taking a bunch of turns playing babysitter. So I figured we might as well just make Omega a lot faster and even reduce her bulk a little bit just to lower the chances of her stealing smokescreen. And yeah, it felt pretty solid for the Pyro King Hondo fight, getting a fair few more Omega turns just to keep those heals cycling out and keeping her a bit more proactive. It was only like a 50 speed gain or something, right? It wasn't earth shattering, but it was noticeable. So that felt good. Ended up getting the Pyro King Hondo kill, and yeah, that was solid.
Very nice. Others you have?
I feel like there was more, and I am unfortunately drawing a blank.
I will mention for your other your standard EP DVD Mara Jade with the EP Cron. Honorable mention out to Balin Shin Han. Works great. Just devours them. You just stun the DVD, then all in the DVD, and then that's kind of it. Yep.
Makes sense.
So let's see here. Back to the notes. I think the next item here is talking about fleet. So Sasha has something for us. Um, I've seen this here with our guest stream with the French guys. Uh, Phantom's Menace seems to be setting this, and it looks like you encountered
Yeah,
the same. So bounty hunter ships under a Galactic Republic leader, so under negotiator or endurance. Tell
that's
us.
right. That's right. I did see it on your guest stream. I had already completed my match. And as I mentioned, mine ended up being a one banner match. I didn't expect it to be that tight. But what cost me quite a few banners and made it that close was I dropped against it was Endurance, Razor Crest, Houndstooth, and Punishing One in the lead. And I did ironically, I saw you guys on the guest stream later in the day, and you did the same sort of double take that I did of wondering, like, did somebody just mix up, like, forget to change capital ships, or was this intentional? Undoubtedly, this was intentional. And it happened to be, in my case, when I was facing Nira against a fleet setup where he had also set Leviathan and Malevolence. I had my Leviathan, otherwise, probably would have been extra ugly. But I ended up taking Leviathan against Leviathan. That left me with a few options against that endurance. There was very little data. I think I found across. This is the nice thing with fleets; you can search back across tons of different GACs, regardless of format. And I think I only found like 3 instances in Kyber 1 of the same comp that I was facing. And two of them were taken out by Leviathan, so that didn't help me too much. And the other was a very ugly Profundity match. I decided to bring Profundity. I did that. I will say I may have misplayed it, so that's why I just, I don't have much fleet aptitude. I don't really pay all that close attention. But I know generally when I go against bounty hunter squads, I want Punishing One out of there as soon as possible. I absolutely, despise getting death mark on my ship. So I went after it with the sort of standard setup of Profundity, tried to go all in to take out Punishing One. Couldn't quite get there. Within like 15, 20 seconds, Punishing One had Death Mark on my Dash Rendar ship. That melted. Then probably another like 45 seconds later, I had been able to get down Houndstooth, but Punishing One got another Death Mark out, and melted. I can't remember if it was Han or whatever ship, but it worked its way through my Profundity squad. I was able to clean it up. Obviously clean up that had Houndstooth already dead, but I did home one. And I went into, yeah, or I came out of that experience thinking that was just a creative twist, particularly setting Leviathan on D as well. So you weren't going to be able to just sort of OP, like leverage Leviathan strength.
Right.
And then when I watched the guest stream, the thing that was fascinating, I didn't have Executor, but I watched the French duo decide to take Executor with bounty hunters against a negotiator with the same bounty hunters, and I don't think they won that battle, but if they
No,
did, they bled
it was bad.
horribly.
No,
So
bad.
it was very interesting that and not something I expected. I thought it was a good move on Mad Mage Nero's part in his match with me. If I hadn't had a nice banner buffer, it's the kind of thing that absolutely could have turned a match,
Mhm.
particularly if it had been more efficient. So I wanted to throw that out there. I had no experience with it. I'm pretty fresh off of the battle today, so I haven't really dug in. I don't know if you guys have seen or thought about those comps.
Well, it's just specifically very much so they're not setting home one. They're counting on you having your profundity available for something, and it's just been an interesting problem for a long time. If you're not setting home one, how is it that you're setting a board that punishes me for having profundity? And this is exactly why, for all the folks at home
Mhm.
not familiar, you can see here, from the Rogue One reinforcement ship on the Profundity fleet. If Rogue One is in the reinforcement slot and the enemy capital ship is Empire, all rebel allies gain breach immunity. So you won't have to worry about that. They will be getting breached, um, which can't be copied, spelled, prevented, blah, blah, blah. If the enemy capital ship is Empire, again, not happening here, while Rogue One is active or in reinforcements, non capital ship enemies are immune to cooldown reduction. So if you watch that guest stream here today, um, after that first death mark came out, the second one came out pretty quick. Like that
Right.
cooldown reduction is working. Now, granted, he used bounty hunters to fight it, so this ability was never a factor. But had he brought in profundity, it would have largely gone the same. That's the point here. And then, of course, what was it? There's also this: if the enemy ship, capital ship is Empire, increase the cooldowns of non-capital ship enemies by one. This is kind of a minor thing. The more dangerous part's what we already read, but it's just further compounding the problem. How many more instances of RNG do you need in your fleet battles? You know,
Yep.
so fair one. All right, the floor is open, gentlemen. Other matchups from the meta. Maybe you meant to mention it earlier and it slipped your mind, and now it's come back. Something else
Yeah.
that just came
I'll,
up.
I'll I'll throw out one more
Please.
that was interesting in my match. I faced a Partagaz, the ISB squad that Nira set, but it didn't have a Partagaz FDC that had been moved over to a General Sadula Ezra GLA squad, which I thought was a pretty good use. I had what was needed to counter there, but the Partagaz squad, the typical ISP trio, Dead Ramiro, KX2, and Partagaz, with a support grit cron, and it ended up like I think in great part because of just what I had left. I forgot I had Ugnaught Hondo. It's the downside of not knowing this meta that well and just completely forgetting that that flavor of the month existed. So I brought Inquisitors against that ISB, and while the data generally against Partagaz was good with Inquisitors, when you change that support to grit and you end up with death mark on Dedra, but you're not able to really sort of you know, leverage the death mark other than like, hey, I'm attacking her, but then, I'm not taking large chunks of damage because of reduced percent health. And once I think it was whenever I brought her below 50 or 30% under the Partagas GAC on me, she goes into stealth. And um, I either have to have death mark to stay on it or have to pull them out of stealth. It ended up beating my Inquisitors, and I was impressed. Anyway, point being, like Partagas, I know the ISB squad Fatals, put them to a higher purpose generally on offense, and they have narrowed down potential predators to themselves with the FDC. But it was cool to see grit support give them a little something, even though, like, I mean, it happened, be biting me in the ass. It was kind of cool to see still. So that was a noteworthy one that I figured I'd call out.
A great one. Thanks. No others from you.
Yeah, well, the other one I'll share was on offense. I
Please.
was interested in potentially setting him on defense, but that defense to offense attacker cron. Obviously with Gungans and the 500% defense that they get when the shield generator is there leads to this just huge conversion. Like the math is just potent. So they get a ton of offense. I was looking at what are other squads that have in leaderships and unique some degree of added defense kind of under the hood there that can boost up the conversion. And Stormtrooper Luke is definitely one of those. I think it depends on I think as long as you got like 100% health, you're getting, I'm going to say 175% or 170% extra defense. So they hit hard as hell with that defense to offense conversion. And I decided to just use it on offense, brought it against Afra, and it took like 20 seconds, 15 seconds to clear out a pretty darn solid Afra team. I suspect there are higher callings for that STL squad as well, because the nice thing is you really have, Leia's the only attacker in the squad whose offense is boosted way to hell up there. But she spends most of her time, unless it's prevented by the opposing team, most of her time in stealth. So you don't worry about her damage or her defense, excuse me, being reduced. And that squad has great turn meter gain, like good health and prop regen. I was just impressed with it generally. Like that was one of the few that I used on offense where it exceeded my expectations.
Now that you make mention of it, not that this is groundbreaking or anything, but it's probably the first time me seeing it with my own eyes. Stormtrooper Luke, with a blue cron, I want to say it was the
Mm.
15% turn meter refund and defense for the stat for the most part, like a larger amount of defense and a smaller amount of crit damage, something of the kind. Uh, yeah, Temple Guard locked down our Leia, and we easily waited that out. You are able to dispel the taunt off Temple Guard. You are able to apply buff immunity, put some early focus on JMM. We didn't actually get JMM killed until Leia was freed up, but we were all in fine shape. Um,
Mm.
that was great, and JMM is still very common to see on defense this season. So I have not been setting Stormtrooper Luke or advising anybody. So it's kind of
Yeah.
a loose team anyway. And yeah, I was happy to print the 57. All right, Fatal, how about you? Any others that you didn't mention earlier that have now sprung to mind? Any other meta matchups?
There was a fight that I did today that was of interest, but it didn't work out. But so basically, uh, there was a Leia, Drogon R2, and I had the idea to try Great Mothers. I don't know if this is established at all. I guess I could try to pull it up on Insight and see if it exists. Um, it kind of works. Uh, Leia gets all the crit avoidance when you gain star meter. I had said, well, I'll Doom Drogon and then try to apply a vulnerable with Great Mothers. And so I ran my Great Mothers versus the Ahsoka. It was just pure crit damage. I don't think I crit Drogon at all. The vulnerable did not land. But instead, I did get the Drogon out, but ended up losing to a fat R2 crit for like 225k on my spirit. And so I'm just sitting here like, okay, so I wasted my entire Datacron budget. I basically fought the fight with no Datacron, and functionally Drogon could have been dead anyway, and I could play that fight out with possibly a way to try to keep my spirit alive. That does seem like it could be a plausible matchup, if built correctly.
Fair. Good one. Appreciate you sharing. Okay, that brings us to the end of meta analysis. We have a few extra minutes. We're a bit ahead of schedule. I think maybe not more. Like between 2 and 5 minutes each. I think we can spend just a couple of minutes on each of these new era characters that will be joining the board for week 3. Of course, everybody's first question is going to be about Rada. I toyed around with 3 ideas just early. I really have only had time to mess around with him. I haven't even got to play around with mod sets on the other characters. So I'm going to keep this really high level from my point of view. Rada, I did get to experiment with 3 sets. I tried them out in speed first. I found that with crit damage triangle, speed arrow, tried it with a health primary cross with high offense, and then I tried with offense cross. I want to say I was able to get somewhere around uh, 370 crit damage triangle, health circle, and about 11.1k to 11.5k, I think, with the offense cross. Something like that, offense. All right. I then tried on a crit damage set, got to about 350, 355. Again, still crit damage triangle, offense cross, speed arrow, health circle, and about 12.1k is what I got offense wise on that. So we have the huge crit damage bonus though, so kind of something. And the last one that I settled on for the moment, but I don't know, I'm open to being convinced otherwise. I did try on offense because, again, not having this kit completely committed to memory, my immediate recollection of his kit is that the offensive bonuses that we're getting are front loaded into us at the start of battle. Um, we don't really ramp offense, as far as I recall. Again, feel free to correct me. You only do in the sense that as you're stacking armor shred on the target, then you're effectively doing more damage. But that isn't you ramping up; that's them ramping down, right? So if that's the case, then the way to maximize the bonus offense given at battle start would be an offense set, and that's why I'm still right around 350 speed. So I think being only 20 or so speed slower than the speed set. I think I could have pushed that a little harder and gotten up to maybe 375, but that's it. So let's say between 20 and 25 speed is what I'm leaving off the table by not being in a speed set. Considering we're getting another 50 speed at battle start, this doesn't feel that game breaking to lose that speed. And then I'm around 13.7. If I took some mods from characters that I'm not taking mods from, like Oppo and stuff like that, I could be around 13.9. And that's cool. I still might calibrate a couple weaker secondaries, push up to 13.750, something like that, 13.8. But that's around where we are. And yeah, no need to really worry about crit damage. You're getting 50%, out of his leadership. So that's kind of where I landed. Guys, what are you thinking on Rada?
Uh, my broad theory is kind of more holistic, which is, um, and maybe like this will be too vague for what people are hoping for pre-week 1,
Hmm?
but without really knowing what Rada's highest calling is, I think that Rada will have like 4 or maybe even 5 types of builds, and the build that you choose will determine which types of matches you're able to take.
Oh, I like that.
Because this is why when Rada was revealed and there were conversations about, man, get another character to undersize. I think Rada has an incredibly healthy design in a lot of ways. That a smart Rada player will know what problems Rada is facing and then try to solve them, and then a smart defense player will also have I don't know if clear cut is necessarily. I mean, you got to know the kids and understand the matchup, but like it's actually relatively clear cut of like how would you go about stopping Rada from killing you within 5 minutes? And the answer for different teams for both sides tends to be different. So we don't have to go through Rada's kit, but like just broad beats what his game plan is like okay. So he has a basic that does not really seemingly ramping damage, but it shreds your armor, right? Rada, Wampa has always scaled damage up. Bane has scaled his damage up. Rada does not. Rada scales your defense down to 0, but his DPS is his DPS, which means, let's say you're doing like Rada against Jabba. His team will assumedly have trouble with thermal dinners into the bleed, which we'll talk about in a second. But once you get down to Jabba Last Standing, you are in a math problem of can you functionally kill their Jabba within 5 minutes? So all of a sudden, for the Rada side, we're talking about damage output. For the Jabba side, we are talking about combined health and protection as well as possibly tenacity stat. Because Rada has 13% base potency, and the majority of his debuffs are not resistible, or are, not resistible. The majority of his debuffs can't be resisted. His healing immunity can. And so, if we're, again, talking a sort of matchup that can involve a lot of healing, whether or not you can land that debuff could be a major difference maker. And it is not an accident that Rada's FDC has 140% potency on it. That might look random to some people. That is not a mistake. They did that shit very much on purpose, because if you don't run it, you will have some issues.
They want you to become accustomed to having those resistible debuffs land, and then you will know what you're missing when it's gone.
Very much, yes. Krisan, I think, has like either negative potency or plus team tenacity on him. Krisan will assumedly die again, because I don't think the Hut Cartel team is well positioned as a squad to deal with the bleed and thermal detonator spam. But when you get the Jabba Last Standing, and as I want to say I recall, like, doesn't Jabba even have like robust base tenacity?
Yeah,
He has 114% base tenacity, which I think, didn't I just say Rada had 14% base potency?
Like 13, yeah.
Yeah. By default, unless you choose to build for potency, or I guess at R10 you'll have a 10% chance to land healing immunity unless Jabba, builds for tenacity at all. You're on the hook, because I assume if Jabba's getting that 30% protection heal per basic, I just don't think you're gonna kill him.
Fair.
If it's a Jabba player who's like modded and maybe even croned for protection, yeah, that's just gonna be horrible. So it's not going to be the perfect answer for week 1, but the best answer I can give for long term is whatever matchup you're interested in Rada, try it. Try it with whatever feels best to you. Pay close attention to, are they beating my ass or am I timing out? And then, pay secondary attention to, well, am I doing good damage, but they're just healing a bunch of it that maybe, I'm just not landing that healing immunity or whatever. And then there's questions of like, does the enemy team block me from getting Terminator, like a JMK situation that maybe, do I need more speed? Rada has a lot of reactivity normally. Do I need less speed and more, defense, bulk, or offense? It's a very, very flexible character, and I think a lot of that flexibility is actually going to be really important depending on who you want to fight.
Sure. So there may be a few builds that emerge here, and we'll look forward to talking about that here in about a week. But out of what you are theorizing, from what you've gotten to playtest a little bit here, um, just in Squad Arena after the round ended and stuff like that, any one way that you're leaning towards for going into week 3 on the mods for him?
For personal lock inclination, I haven't really thought about it yet. I might just do some blend of, I think you want a healthy amount of defense. I need to
Mm-hmm.
double check on. He gets like, I know he gets 200% defense. I don't remember if he
Yeah.
gets more from other sources. Um, I mean, if it's only plus 200, then he's probably not going to be tapping on defensive cap. But maybe there's some decent round number. Crit damage triangle is almost certainly probably a necessity. He's percent health resistant, so health will assumedly be fine.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, like my
Yeah, and he's
generic
got
build is
life
probably
steal too. Good, solid health steal. So that's why I also thought leaning more health than prod, even though he
yeah, it's
is
like
restoring both health and prod in a couple spots.
yeah, it's maybe it's a consideration for banners, or like maybe it's easier to get 69 banners or 68 or whatever if you run protection primaries. But yeah, I don't know. I
Mhm.
mean, what are his base health and protection? I think they're roughly the same.
It
I'll
looks
probably
fairly
end up
close. Looks fairly close. If you're looking at my screen. But yeah. Well, how about you, Sasha? Your brief thoughts here on what you do with Rada as far as mods just going into week one. Or sorry, this
So
first week here with week three.
yeah, no problem. I've had no time
Hmm.
to play around with him at
Hmm.
all. I, in fact, only while Fatal was talking did I first put mods on my Rada. And one of the things I was considering is like whether trying to mod for potency. What I don't know, not having tested him, not having seen him in battle, is like what is his sort of like natural survivability rate? What's his sort of like natural level of DPS, and how much I need to bolster any of those. Fascinating point on the FTC and the potency. I have no doubt that that is there for a reason. I mean, that FTC, which by the way, I think also shapes like how much I'm going to lean into or use these guys. It looks like the FTCs, while they're in the shop right now, they're the pre-purchase for sale stuff is not out and may not be out, I guess, for another week or something. So I don't plan on having the FTCs for these guys going into the first week, which means if you want to overcome that, like, and was there 13%, I think 23% potency, base potency for Rada at R10, you really have got to be modding and or adding that to the DC. So considering that and seeing like, hey, if I put a bunch of, I don't even know that I'll see a Java, but I kind of like the idea of it being able and being able to solo Java. But if you put enough potency and enough damage on, are you going to be able to just sort of race down a Java? That might be what I try first. My general default with new characters, and I'm not sure if I'm going to do this with some of the others. I think I'd probably do this with Snowtrooper Commander when we get there, is jack up the defense. I just think survivability ends up being really key. It's maybe a little less critical for Rada when he doesn't have the natural scaling damage, and I'd rather leverage his burst out of the gate, and then try and sort of seize control very early on. So
Hmm.
long-winded way of saying, I guess offense and maybe some potency, but I'm not sure. And I, pepper and defense as always.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't want to keep you guys here super late. If we go through as we did with this for the rest of them, we'll be here a while. Let me just cover a couple of these that I think are worth mentioning going into week three. First of all, as far as the Carson Teva team for week three, the word on the street is Carson, R5, and Zeb. Do we have any reason to disagree with that statement right now? This is a starting point for week three.
I think it's a very safe bet, and also for what it's worth, I don't think that there will be a second team aside from that. So you
Yeah,
know,
right.
we
That
we
as
don't have
well.
to talk per character or whatever, but just broad
Yeah.
beast
Well,
like.
just real brief. I mean, it sounds like all of us are kind of in the same spot where here in the early hours of having these characters, so gotta feel things out. But yeah, you've got crit damage baked into this team. He's an attacker. Ward is an attacker. I expect this is going to be offense or crit damage mods, something like that. R5 D4, not having read through him yet, this max protection's for rebel allies, not necessarily New Republic, so just read that accordingly. I want to say, think about this. I want to say it was going to be like a speed set, but I'm not entirely sure what I want. Yeah, okay. So modem with prop primaries, I guess. Max health is true damage, 50%. So what? We're looking at like a speed arrow and 3 health primaries kind of a thing, or no, prop primaries, prop primaries. Because it's kind of analogous thing. And what's his potency like? 40%. That's not too bad to work with. So maybe a two-piece of potency if you heavily debuff based. Uh, yeah, I mean, he's got a fair share of them. So something like that. I don't know if anybody had any competing thoughts on R5. Nope.
It, on average, I'm probably gonna go 4 bulk primaries, but yeah,
Okay, so
just
the 4 prop then for the conversion, maximize it.
as well.
I'm sorry, I was saying the 4 prop primaries then to maximize that conversion, prot to health.
Yeah, yeah, I said might as well.
Oh yeah, might as well. Okay, I misheard. All right. And then of course that leaves us with Zeb. Tank mod. So ideally, probably defense sets. Looking at this, you've got some crit avoidance for each New Republic ally. So max health and max protection. Protection up. He'll gain more benefit from health for that. While he's taunting, more defense and health. Gains 3 stacks of heal over time and frenzy. And all new Republic allies gain 30% turn meter. So, not knowing how this team plays, if you wanted to game it such that this would occur sooner than later, you would put him in a prot circle, right? Help him get to that 50% health mark sooner. But I imagine that will probably still be going. What I would. Evasion, he's losing evasion. 50%. All other. All right. Wait. This is Grand Arenas. Okay, carry on. Okay, that's nice. I'm assuming that this ability is executing based on the ally's own potency. So this ability grants them the ability to do that. I had to guess. Yeah, maybe kind of like a Kersantin-esque mod set. If I showed you mine, something like this. If I had another one just like it, I might throw it on. So uh, more health primaries than prop. I don't know. I'd have to compare and see. My suspicion is that his life total would be significantly higher in prot. I'd have to test it, but something like this, right? 6 defense mods. If it was going to be health primaries, then it would be great to have defense and then strong prot secondaries. Otherwise, prop primaries, strong defense and health secondaries. What do you guys think on Zeb?
Me, this 3v3 Omicron makes him feel a lot like Stormtrooper Han in some ways.
Hmm.
Or at least, like, is that fair to say? God, is he agility tank or not? I thought he was. He is not. So agility tanks have abysmal armor. Like, if you go look at like Stormtrooper Han's base stats, they are
Hmm.
shockingly bad for a tank.
Okay.
I thought that that's what he was. It turns out he's not, but I almost wonder how much that does or doesn't change anything,
Hmm.
because if you're putting him in a matchup, like let's say you're taking him on offense and you're putting him in a matchup where all that evasion he has means he's not doing that much tanking in the early game, that might just give him a license to just go for like a speed set, and you just, I mean, I don't know if he's gaining that much turn meter or whatever to convert it into more effective speed. Yeah, unfortunately I don't have this kit or this team committed terribly to memory yet.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I like, you could just go like a generic high defense, high bulk set, and that will probably be fine. But I mean, when you've got 100% evasion, that gives you some free license to take some creative liberties if possibly need be. So
Hmm.
Yeah, maybe I'll just give him. I like. I mean, honestly, knowing he's not an agility tank, I might even R10 him just for the sake of, which also could be a waste, just because if he's evading everything, you're not using that R10 that much. But
Well, I guess it'll all depend on what's getting used to fight it because he's losing 5% per hit taken, right?
he is. But there's a we haven't talked
For
about
every
Carson
time he
Tavia yet,
evades.
but there's a major question of how long matches are going to last when Carson Tava has some silly numbers in his kit, and then Zeb says that man gets
Yeah.
250% crit damage, 50% offense.
Yeah, I saw
Uh,
that. That was goofy. Yeah, there it is. 200% crit damage, 40% defense penetration. Yeah, so I mean, to your point, starting off with 100% evasion does reduce the value of defense. High speed would be nice. You could hedge your bet going with a deliberately very fast tank set. Um, but yeah,
whether you
in the
go,
worst case, you only go down to 35% evasion.
yeah, whether you go turbo or just fast, I think this is not a tank that you have to necessarily super stress about his tanking ability unless you're like whatever, like if we're you're fighting Ray or something, right? It's like, yeah, you've got a tank whirlwind, so yeah, clearly you can't rely on the evasion. But like by default, he can, I think, spend a fair amount of his secondary budget on just speed and
Mm,
probably be pretty confident in that choice, whether you choose to go speed set or like triple defense set.
solid. Any disagreeing thought on that? Anything you wanted to add, Sasha?
No, I've not dug deeply enough uh, to add or debate any of that. So
No worries.
that's going to be the next day or so before lock.
Yeah. Well, I don't think it's necessary here within the scope of our conversation to talk about Teva um, or
I
the Anzellans. I don't think they're getting coverage this week, right?
Teva, I would just shout out that Zeb Omicron says all other New Republic allies gain 50% crit avoidance.
Mhm.
So I don't even know if it's necessary, but a splash like that always opens up the window to like, okay, you throw on a C arrow, that's 85. You throw on an R10. If they don't have R10, that's 95. That is a respectable thing to flex, and also the fact that Teva is on plus 200% crit damage. I believe the current consensus is when you get that much crit damage for free, offense set is better.
Hmm. Okay. Fair. I could see
So
that. That's a good point.
shouting out that.
No, no, no. Good one to throw out there. All right, then the other character that's really worthwhile to talk about going into week 3 then is going to be Snowtrooper Commander. He is a leader. He's going to use 2 of your disused Imperial remnants, I guess. It's what, Snowtrooper and TIE Fighter pilot, is it?
Yep, those are the call outs at least.
Yeah. Where does it call it out? Am I blind? Might be blind. TIE Fighter pilot gets a call out there. Uh, yeah, I must be blind about the Snowtrooper one. But regardless, that's where those are the guys that you're going to be throwing in here. Just tune up your Snowtrooper mods, offense or crit damage. I want to say uh, sneaky if you've got one. I want to say a potency cross with offense on it and speed is probably going to have some real value. I recall that there's ability block on basic. Nice if you can get that to land consistently. TIE Fighter pilot, I imagine just speed potency mods like normal, something like that. Speed health or speed defense if you've got good potency secondaries baked in natively, I would say. Uh, Otherwise, for Snowtrooper Commander himself, this is one of the characters I know the least about. We can see we've got 100% max health and protection. They've got a recovery mechanism when they get low. Pretty nice. Restoration for the whole team. Da-da-da. Stealth for the non-tanks, bonus protection. So that kind of hints to us that we're looking at health, primaries, at least for the circle, right? Maybe. Anyway, you've got
It
the
would
100.
seem to.
You have the 100% max health and protection, so maybe not. I don't know. All right. While we got this, blah blah blah. Whenever he taunts, all allies gain 10% offense, stacking up to 150. Whenever an ally stealths, that ally recovers 30% protection. Mhm. Stealth allies have 200% crit chance and critical damage. So to Dagger's point, or sorry, not Dagger's point, Fatal's point, you could make a case for both of these going into offense sets, get some value out of that. Maybe potency 2 set. Move. Whenever Stormtrooper use a hunker down while taunting, dispel debuffs from all allies. Whenever an ally ability blocks an enemy, and both Snow and Ty, I think, can do that. Remove 30% turn meter from that enemy and increase their cooldowns by 1. That is annoying. So, how do we read into this? Whenever another Imperial Remnant ally is damaged by an enemy, commander gains turn meter 9. While he has prot. So yeah, we're protting this man out. All Imperial Remnant allies have 100% crit avoidance and tenacity while he has protection. We got to prot this boy out. So maybe that's it. For protection primaries, defense sets if you have them, blend of defense and health if you don't have all the defense sets. Thoughts, feelings?
It's a squad that I was interested in for 3v3, but this is just sort of the reality of like pattern recognition, having played the game enough that like a squad like this generally is fairly dependent, like at least at the like top end of the game, going to be fairly dependent on its FDC. And the FDC for this squad, as well as the one that calls out, Zeb and R5D4, it has Ward is the level 15, but like we were saying, it's probably not, she's probably not in the 3v3. But the reality is the stats on those FTCs are so good that my expectation is that probably the more critical points in the meta are going to be about stealing those stats for stronger teams and trying to win matches there. The supremacy directive datacron, the FTC for this Snowtrooper Commander one is 110% offense, 140% grid damage. Like you just think about the squads you would love to have that on. And I just say that because it kind of dampens my enthusiasm and my rush to invest in the team when it's like, man, once that FTC is out, if this squad's really dependent on that FTC, I think there are probably still going to be higher callings for it. So just concerns me a little bit, and yeah, even more so for the Carson Tiva R5D4 one because those stats are insanely good. It's kind of similar to the Snowtrooper Commander, but you add 140% defense and 100% health. So yeah, I guess what I'm getting at is I'm a little cautious about going too far down the rabbit hole on TIE Fighter pilot and Snowtrooper finally getting their days in the sun.
Well, we'll see. It sounds like you're not an early believer, but I believe this guy looks like a total badass. I think
I
he's
think he
pretty
looks
fun.
cool, and I love new tanks, and so I'm interested in it. That's just the kind of counterweight that sits there on me. But
Fair enough. Thoughts you have on this Fatal? High level thoughts on the modding?
Unfortunately, it's still just kind of too out of touch with the kits, but I feel a lot better about the other new Imperial Trooper that's coming, the concepts for Iden, than I do about this team. I'm like looking at the 3v3 Omicron again. It's like I feel more confident in Carson Teva's squad than this, but there's enough here that like maybe this will end up being like a C team cleanup or whatever option. I don't know if I have the utmost confidence in Snowtrooper or TFP ending up here. Maybe Snowtrooper does. I mean, the fact that he's Imperial Remnant lead means that, like, if he so desired, could he not just go for, like, the 2 zombie troopers as well as, like, a possibly more aggressive or proactive Captain Enoch type angle. Yeah, I don't know. I know he's got the defense scaling that I assume defense sets are implied. Um, I know that the callouts for Snowtrooper and TFP are the ones who get his defense to offense, but defense to offense really, really needs high numbers to really feel good. That just 100% may not be enough to force those two attackers.
Yeah. Well, I
That
didn't notice this until I just read it over here a second ago. Again, not having this all in top of mind, but you do have a special here on a 3-round cooldown, gain 200% defense and taunt for 2 turns.
yeah, it's if it was permanent 200% defense and it just stacked repeatedly, then I
Mm.
would feel stronger about this as
Mm.
a win con to consider. The defense to offense. It's only 100%, but if the thing it was 100% of just kept going up, then that would be a more clear angle to me.
Mhm.
Yeah, I will probably, if I do try them, it's not like I'm using Enoch and zombies
Yeah.
anyway, that I would probably try them first.
Yeah, I see it. I see the vision.
But yeah, just keeping an open mind. I mean, Scout Trooper, again, DTMG Kron is gone as well, right? It's a fairly open field right now. I feel like I remember there being some restriction about I think he doesn't want to run with Enoch for some reason, or he at least has an Enoch replacement clause for I think he gives 100% crit avoid.
Yeah, while he has prot, right?
Yeah. It's very, very possible that I think he will be better than I think right now.
Mhm.
Just from, I mean, the team he reminds me the most of right now is actually my preferred CLS 3v3 loadout, which is all you do is you just run a bunch of tenacity, a bunch of defense, a bunch of protection. And in that team's case, you kill things solely via expose. And, CLS gets his reactivity, gains a bunch of turn meter. This isn't exactly that for offense game plan, but you do have, all that shielding and reassurance that, yeah, this could easily just be a strong fundamental squad, build them well for speed, defense, protection, tenacity, and let the free 200% crit damage do the work for you, and that could end up being totally fun.
Completely agree. Right. Any other closing thoughts you guys had on these area units before we go to wrap up?
I think people will be surprised because I see a lot of people saying "Oh, New Republic sucks" until GL Mando comes out, and these kits are simple, but I think these kits are. This is your glimpse of what Galaxy of Heroes would have been like if CG did not decide to make kits more complex and to factionalize. Uh, this is number creep. This is 100% evasion, 300%, total bulk, 200% defense. Right, this era is effectively just a wall of numbers, and for people who have been wanting simple kits, I think this is very much targeting you, and this is for you. But I do think people have gotten so used to the wordy side of things that, yeah, this is might catch some of the shit talkers I've seen by surprise when it's you know, this game has not really seen a proper evasion tank before, and that is some shit when it happens.
Fair.
So
Yeah, I think the closest we had from Zeb was Chopper, right?
Chopper or that Holdo Datacron where she would
Uh,
retaunt one foresight or whatever it
yeah,
was.
right. Very good. All right, thank you, gentlemen. Let's pivot back around, takeaways and final thoughts. So, my final thought for going into week 3 is that all this work that I'm going to be doing over the next, 20 something hours, 18 hours, something like that until lock in for this week is going to be wasted because I'm not going to have any real matches. And if that is indeed the case, you guys know I'll bring you some guest matches, but otherwise, yeah, I'm still preparing and tightening up as if I had real matches. The one thing I won't do is I do not buy Datacron anything new for the next, that you would otherwise be earning in the next conquest. No more wailing to have any of that fancy stuff for week 3 of the previous season. Um, CG never got back to me about that last week, 2 seasons ago now, where I wailed out to have the new Datacrons for week 3. My bracket was empty, not even a rodeo, just me and nobody. And they've not said word one to me about fixing that and making me whole for that. So they're not going to see a blunt nickel out of me going into week 3 for anything. I'm just going to earn stuff during Conquest. That said, though, looking forward to seeing what my patrons, my clients, and what other content creators are up to here in week 3. I will do my best to live vicariously. Sasha, Aisha, over to you. Your takeaways and final thoughts heading into the final week of this 3 versus 3.
Yeah, I'll say like even though yeah, I've only had one match this season, I still,
Son of a
I even I can kind of feel that like demystification of the meta that happens as more data gets out there. And so what it actually makes me think is I do appreciate this cadence of rollout that these new era character conversions happen late in a meta like this just to shake things up and keep it interesting because I'm looking forward to the next week. Like ideally I get another match where hopefully you and I are in the same bracket. That would be a ton of fun. But it is a nice point at which to sort of introduce new variables into the GAC equation, and then so like yeah, that's part of my sentiment. And the last thing, a little tongue in cheek, is that I will say like with a high evasion tank coming into the game, I just wanted to do like a PSA reminder to people that Apple Care as like a device warranty is really nice to have. Um, that I will say evasion metas, I've had to take advantage of that at certain points in time, where a device, for reasons that won't be spoken out loud, was in need of repair or replacement. So yeah, if you're eligible for Apple Care, you might want to look at it as evasion reenters our meta.
Very good. Over to you, Fatal. Your takeaways and final thoughts as we enter the dawn of the new republic in the grand arena meta, closing out this 3 versus 3 season.
I'm actually rather looking forward to this. You know, life events aside, even before that, I was mentally kind of Rada Witting Room because I do think he does represent just a very fresh shakeup for the game at the moment. Or like, he just gives pretty much every team something to think about and a puzzle to solve. And for what I enjoy the game for, I think that's just, that's the shit that I would hope for. That's the good stuff. Um, yeah, really beyond that is just I'll be curious to keep an eye out for whether Snowcom can get anything interesting done along the way. But overall, yeah, I'm looking forward to this week, hoping to make some good usage of it. And also, I never really gave a proper full answer, so I will just say for Rada, definitely a crit damage triangle. I think a safe position would be to go 3 defense set if you just have no idea what you're gonna fight.
Sure.
Um, and run a good mix of like 17 to 20 to 22 speed secondaries minimum, but also do try to get that percent defense, percent offense. And yeah, I don't know. Happy hunting. Just do keep in mind who you end up fighting because we don't have those NDCs available yet, and so that potency concern might come back and bite you in some ways you don't expect.
Very fair. Now, as far as your streams here this coming week, for the folks that don't already know, where can they catch you live?
Twitch.tv/PlaybookTV, YouTube.com/theplaybook. My schedule is pretty much up in the air for the foreseeable future, but will usually probably be towards end of round.
All right. Yeah, hope everything smooths out for you soon. I don't know if you made mention of it on any of your streams this week. I don't know what's happened. Is that public knowledge or what?
I spoke on some of it I got more information today. I haven't really spoken about yet. I
Yeah,
don't really
certainly
have.
not looking to plumb anything out of you. Just wondering if I missed something that you shared with the stream because I didn't even know you were having difficulties finding the time this week.
Um,
I'd heard the
I
update as through the stream, but I don't mean to put you on the spot, Fatal.
Yeah, not nothing like that. Just expression of concern.
Yeah.
I don't have a full image yet, so
Okay.
I'm still kind of stuck in the waiting game. So I
Okay,
won't bother today. But
no worries.
it statistically, I am probably fine. It
That's
just
what I want to
that
hear. That's the best any of us can really say. Well, all right. Looking forward to seeing your streams. Thank both of you, gentlemen. Thanks to both of you for making the time to be with us here tonight. Shout out to TJ and Dagger that couldn't be with us. Hopefully, we can see at least one of them back with us here for next week. And yeah, if I do have my own matches, or if I am streaming a guest match, you can catch me live at twitch.tv/Tassinix. I simulcast from my YouTube channel, Tassinix Gaming, where if you've not been there before, check it out. Whole bunch of Swig related content I think you might be interested in. Anything you enjoy over there, please hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitch. All great ways to support me, absolutely free. If you love what I'm doing over here and you want to go above and beyond the Call of Duty to support the stream, there are a few ways to do so. I do have a Cash App that is $Tassinix. I have a PayPal, which is tassinix@gmail.com. And if you're interested in getting some enhanced Grand Arena scouting power for yourself, early access to my content, including plotting and scheming, and a few other benefits besides, you may be interested in becoming a patron. Check out patreon.com/Tassinix. For any upwardly mobile Grand Arena player, there is something there of interest for you. Recently, I've had a few folks enlist my services as a Grand Arena and/or mod coach, and they've loved it so far. They've been pushing me to make mention of it because otherwise, this slide is the only thing that's telling you I even offer that. So, yeah, if you're interested, please inquire. Otherwise, joining the Task House costs as little as $5 a month, and that brings you into VIP access. Whoops, wrong slide. VIP access, where you do get early access to the Plotting and Scheming show. That is coming out to our general audience Friday mornings at 8 a.m. Patrons have it as early as Tuesday night within hours of recording, giving you early insight into at least that first round of the week. I will occasionally make patron exclusive videos that you will have, at least a month ahead of the general public. And of course, a dedicated text and voice chat on Discord where I'm usually lurking. So pop on in and say hi. Thank you so much to all of my patrons subscribed here at VIP Access. Moving on up to the $10 a month tier is VIP Access Plus, where you get a bundled Patreon access to me and to your choice of either OmegaBot or Hot Utils Patreon. OmegaBot is that tool that I highlight at the start of all of my Grand Arena streams. It's the one with the graphs that give you an easily understood sense of your opponent's offensive and defensive tendencies. Anybody can use that tool for free to scout their opponent's last week of Grand Arena history, but only patrons can build out a custom report with any number of weeks. You get a downloadable HTML version of that report with embedded links that when you click them, takes you right back into Swugga.gg or Insight, whichever you're using, with data pre-sorted, just helping you further minimize and focus your scouting efforts. Alternatively, you might go for the Hot Utils Patreon, aka Chili subscription, which is your number one tool for mass mod management and loadout creation. Nothing else lets you switch so easily between your Grand Arena, TB, TW, and Raid mods. You can use it like TJ and Fatal do to comprehensively remod your roster using the powerful automation feature. You can slice through hundreds of mods in seconds, help out your guild and TW, and so much more. No wrong way to go at VIP Access Plus. Thank you to all of my patrons subscribed here. At VIP Access Premium, that is $15 a month for the Double Bot bundle. So Patreon access for me, OmegaBot, and Hot Utils all in one price. Going out and getting those two bots anywhere else costs the same as this triple bundle, which is why so many of my patrons say it's one of the best values in the game. Thank you so much to all of my patrons subscribed here at VIP Access Premium. I know you guys enjoy the double bots. Now, at the top of the list for my most generous supporters here in Jester's Club Elite, the one, the only Nomads Reaper, a madman who pops in to streams on occasion like he did in the last week and just goes crazy. Drops hundreds of gift subs, thousands of biddies, sets hype train records, and yeah, he had a counterpart very recently in Pills, who on his own will show up mostly towards the end of streams and hand out 10 gift subs here, 100 gift subs there. But just recently, we got nomads and pills together on the same stream, and they basically had a dueling give-a-thon. They set a brand new record on the stream, level 25 hype train. Absolutely incredible. Thank you guys both for your exceptional and extraordinary generosity over the years, especially considering that neither one of you plays Swugga anymore. Special thanks goes out to the Lost Womp Rat, one of my patrons who's gone above and beyond the Call of Duty, not just for me, but for so many other content creators for our game, helping us all out with technical issues behind the scenes. I also work with him to produce those Datacron infographics and videos for the new sets. He's been a little under the weather in recent weeks, but it sounds like he's on the mend. We should be getting back to that soon. Looking forward to doing that with you here in the near future, Womp Rat. And as always, appreciate the time and attention. And of course, to my co hosts here, I'm Plotting and Scheming, Dagger, TJ, Sasha Aisha, and Fatal. Gentlemen, as ever, it has been my pleasure and privilege to record this episode with you guys. Despite everything going on in your lives, you're still consistent about showing out. We always have a good show. I learn something every time. Hopefully, you guys occasionally feel the same, but it isn't about us. It's about all the folks tuning in on a weekly basis for our show. And I got to tell you, it's rare that a day goes by I'm not getting some type of feedback, gentlemen. Something telling us that our discussions are helping people. They are picking up tidbits that they can apply in their own grand arena rounds. It is helping them win the day. We are the positive force of change that we wanted to see in the world. So thank you guys so much for being part of it. 3+ years on, and I wouldn't change a thing. All right, we have made it back to the beginning. And yeah, like I said, I don't dare hope that I actually have a real match of my own, but looking forward to living vicariously through all of you. And yeah, until next time, it's been real. It's been awesome. Been real awesome. Take care.